Hello and welcome. I'm speaking with a great friend and wellness leader by the name of Zac Deane Roesler. Zac is with me today, and we're going to be covering a whole range of different topics around health and wellness. Zac has his own YouTube channel. He's a certified health coach. He runs broth nights. He runs all sorts of amazing events. He's just an incredible wellness. I put him in the category of a wellness leader because he's a living, breathing, walking, talking example of how to live a very vital and healthy life. So it's a pleasure to have Zac here on the show. I'm going to be picking his brains about what do we need to do right now to stay healthy? What are all the health hacks? How do we transform our health? How do we live in a state of vitality? And Zac has got an abundance of wealth and knowledge in this space. And so it's an honor to have you on the show. Thanks for joining me, Zac.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. And, we met a few years ago through another mutual friend, Brock, and we had an incredible retreat. And it's just been awesome to now reconnect. So, yeah, super excited for this.
Yeah, it was awesome. The retreat that we met on was amazing. We ended up running an ice bath in the bathroom of the retreat property. We did Wim Hof breathing with an ice bath, and then we followed it by having dinner and dessert in a infrared sauna. It was a beautiful evening. So great to reconnect with you, Zac, and we certainly had some fun at that retreat. So thanks for joining me. I'm just going to dive in. I'm just going to hit you up with some questions. Obviously, there's been a lot of things that have been happening. Obviously, worldwide global events where people's obviously the issue that's been happening at the moment has been people become aware of their immune system as actually being an area for them to maybe place their attention on. There's been a lot of people that have become aware of, obviously with the coronavirus right now, there's been some people that have been aware of if they have immunity issues in their body, they are susceptible to potentially getting the virus. But I think in general, people I think are starting to wake up to the nature and the notion of actually living in a state of vitality and health is an important thing anyway. So I think just like there's been a lot of issues that have been illuminated into people's consciousness, I think health and wellness is one that's become front and center for a lot of people. So I'd just love to get your point of view first on what do you think's happening here in terms of people waking up to why health is important in the first place?
Well, yeah, I guess one of the positives from this odd situation is the fact that people are definitely prioritizing their health above everything else. And I said to some friends, and we went to the health herbalist down in Manly here, and I was like, why is there no one here? All the big supermarkets were filled. Everyone's trying to get toilet paper and, cans of baked beans, yet this herbalist that literally has so many solutions is empty. So it's like, yes, finally people are focusing on their health, but not, it's for the for the wrong reasons. But yeah, with that said, the emergence of the importance of our immune system supporting our sleep and mindset, mental health, have become a priority and focus. And yeah, I think what's going on behind the scenes is a lot of stuff that we probably will never hear about. But I'm really excited to share some solutions on how you guys at home can stay super healthy and happy right now, and really make it practical for everyone and offer so many solutions. So if you are out there, please grab a piece of paper and a pen and take some notes, because I'm going to give you a heap of practical stuff.
Nice one, Zac. Well, you just dropped in a couple of those major dimensions of health. Obviously, some of the ones you mentioned there were immune system. I know you're also big on gut health, obviously sleep. There's obviously a lot of supplementation. There's obviously fasting. There's that whole world of health. I'd love to know from your point of view, what do you think are those dimensions of health that really move the needle the most to begin with, in terms of what do you think makes the biggest difference? Which of those do you think is worth focusing on the most?
Starting out and growing up, like most people, we think it's food and exercise. I was a chubby kid and had a lot of troubles with allergies and asthma, and being a bit of a chubby kid growing up, had low self-esteem. And so I put my health at a really high level. And so I was always on the lookout for different health practices that would help. And fast forward now, another 15 years or so, I'm 30. My understanding on health and nutrition and how to create energy in the body has changed completely. If food and exercise were the thing, we would all be incredibly healthy, but something's amiss. What's the missing link? Yes, food is important. Yes, exercise is important. But for me, what's I've noticed was more important is the frequencies around our environment, the light that we're exposed to, the EMFs that we're exposed to, the technology, you know, the fake environments like offices, as well as food and stuff like that is important. So the question is, you know, what's most important right now? In my understanding of health and nutrition, it's the invisible forces that are actually most important, the things that we can't see. So my number one health hack, if you were just to start into some solutions, is 6 months ago, I started researching a guy of the name of Dr. Jack Kruse, a neurosurgeon and a quantum biologist. And he was talking about this thing called circadian biology, which is our brain clock, you know, up with the sun, down with the sun, which if we were to imagine we lived on the land, we would have been up with the sunrise and we would have gone down, maybe have a fire at nighttime, gone to sleep when the sun went down. And that balance of up with the sun, down with the sun creates a resonance in our brain waves, which is exactly the same resonance as the planet. And if we can stay in that resonance, the Sherman resonance of the planet, we can then get into a healthy cycle. And it's technology, you know, entertainment, light, frequencies, all these different things that we don't really think of, like the EMFs or 5G that are coming out now, that are really playing with our health in ways that we're just not familiar with. So, you know, number one is getting the sunrise every single day. There's one thing that we could improve with our health, getting the sunrise, ideally on our whole body, all that red light. It's not going to burn us. There's none of the bad light that's going to like damage our body. So that first 15, 20 minutes of that red light, it actually helps build collagen in the skin. It's really like anti-aging, as well as if you have injuries, the red light penetrates deeper into the skin, so it helps inflammation. It helps produce more energy in the cells for repair, as well as it kills bad bugs. This is the craziest thing. You know me talking about gut health and bone broth for many years, which is still really important. But the whole idea, if we can get our body, specifically our digestive system, in the light every day, that will kill the bad bugs and boost the good bugs. And I can send you guys the science as well. I'll put it in the footnotes for you guys to watch or read. But yeah, number one is light, man, and frequencies, and getting away from the routers, you know, turning technology off, getting away from this fake light. That's why I have these blue blockers on, to take out the blue light to balance out my eyes, because our eye, this is what I figured out, like our eye creates nutrition. And so the sun, you know, I don't know if you've noticed, sometimes if you've started a fast, and some people can't fast very long, they find like, oh, they get hangry, or they've got lots of cravings and stuff. And I've found that the more that I got into the sun, the easier my fasting was, because the sun actually creates DHA and nutrition in through the eye, into the brainstem, into the body, that I never realized. So if we want to, number one is food. Food is important, is medicine, but light equals food. So we got to focus on that light component.
That's really powerful, Zach. I think it's kind of reminding people that, I think it's almost like there's been this paradigm that we've grown up in, which has been focusing all on food. But there's only recently that we're starting to become aware of the science behind a lot of the things around like light and EMF and a lot of these other technologies that are coming out, as well as a lot of information around, you know, things like, you know, sleep and the impact on sleep. Also, obviously, things like gut health. You know, there's so much technology and there's so much science now that's giving us more information. So I'd love to know, from your point of view, what are you discovering? I love these hacks. What else are you discovering? What are these hacks, the practical things that people can be doing that make a real tangible difference to their wellness and their energy?
How I describe it is that if you can picture a tree, just a normal, healthy, abundant, strong tree in the bush, in the wilderness, and if you were to put a tarp, a big piece of plastic that was covering out the sunlight over the tarp, what happens to the tree? It dies. And so the same thing is with our body. If we're covering ourselves with clothes, I'm not saying be naked all the time, but I'm saying with clothes all the time, we're in offices, we're under fake light, our body starts to create disharmony and doesn't create vitality, let's put it that way. So the more that we disconnect from nature, the unhealthier we get, the more that we're entwined in rhythm with nature, the healthier we get. And yes, eating healthy and drinking good quality water and fasting is important. Bone broth is one of my faves, you know, beef, slow cooked, 20-hour bone broth, putting awesome spices in there and even some minerals in there as well. That is just super soothing to the digestive system, as well as, yeah, like, gosh, getting to bed, you know, with the food thing is important, but getting to bed when the sun goes down is kind of boring. You know, like we don't really want to go to bed at like 8:30 at night. Like you got no social life. You know, how can you go and meet people right now in isolation? It's pretty easy. But you know, with the extra stress, we find ourselves getting later at night, watching movies, having some more chocolate, you know, not going to bed till 12 o'clock, and we don't wake up till 8, 9 o'clock. And I found myself in that little bit of a rhythm recently, and I was like, I was foggy in my mind. I wasn't thinking straight. I was more reactive. My emotions were getting to me. And 6 months ago, when I started learning about all this light stuff, I noticed I was quite strict because I was learning that particularly our brain chemistry, our dopamine, the happy high feeling hormone, is created when we sleep. So if we can't get a good quality sleep in, our happy hormone, that sounded French for a second, our happy high hormone, dopamine won't be produced properly, and then we're more addicted to sugar or drugs or alcohol or work or sex or whatever the thing is, or porn, you know, all these crazy addictions. It's because our dopamine is low. But what creates dopamine is that sleep. So I was like, I put myself to the test. I was like, what if I started to really get into that rhythm of going to sleep when the sun goes down, exposing myself to no fake light at nighttime, none of the light from my kitchen or the office or my phone. I'd dim it, I'd change, you know, getting Flux or the Iris, which is really good. If you buy that's like $20 Iris, and it will create a software that takes all the blue light out of the screen. And I started to do that. And in a couple of weeks, I noticed that I was so balanced emotionally. I was so balanced physically. I was getting quicker results at the gym. I was needing less food. I was excelling in my career. And that was because I was just getting to bed on time and waking up for the sunrise and just looking at the sunrise for 10, 15 minutes, not directly into the sun, just off a little bit so that sunlight can go into my eyes, ideally taking my shirt off, connecting, grounding to the earth, taking my shoes off, doing a bit of breathing, stretching, a little bit of exercise, drinking good quality water in the morning to hydrate. And that was like all the things that I learned about food and exercise were then secondary, and this light circadian rhythm, getting my sleep became as a priority. And I just started to feel amazing. Like I felt bulletproof. But the thing is, you go to sleep earlier. You have less of a social life, but you feel $1,000,000.
Mm. I love that, Zac. And I guess a big thing that a lot of people are going to be confronted by is that in order to create change, you've got to initiate the energy and the investment in your intention to actually cause that course correction at the beginning. So there is a whole degree of mindset that underpins everything that we're talking about, which is someone's actually got to care enough about their own wellness to put a lot of these measures in place as well. So I'd love to know from your point of view, how much of a role does that play on actually people committing to and following through on actually changing their health?
Yeah, look, like most things, if we if it's easy, it's not going to feel like it's worthwhile. You know, if it just came to us, easy come, easy go. For those of you out there who do value your health, who maybe find it challenging, but you push through that challenge or that fear or that discomfort, and you have to let go of a couple of habits and start embracing some new habits, you'll be rewarded. But for everyone who thinks it's going to be easy and an overnight thing, that's a mindset that doesn't create success in any area. So yeah, it's about, you know, choosing the path less traveled. And if we do what everyone else does, we're going to get the results of everyone else. If we want to do something different, we have to change things up. So if you've tried the exercise thing and the food thing and the supplement thing, and you know, and you're like, what's missing? So it's just not working. It's like get your light correct, get the frequencies correct, getting connected to the earth, and get that sleep balance in a good rhythm. And it's so simple. And this is why no big kind of health guru is talking about it, because they can't make any money through supplements selling sunlight in a bottle. Like You can't do it. So no one talks about it. So yeah, now I'm just like so passionate about it because it just really works. What it boils down to is fundamentally, it boils down to our mitochondria. And if there's one thing that you guys want to learn and research about health, it's mitochondria, because that's the fuel factories of our cells. And in our cells, we have thousands of these mitochondria in our cells, and they create ATP. And so when we look at the sun, when we connect to the ground, our body takes in electrons at a really basic level, takes in electrons, and electrons are what boil down and go into the mitochondria to create ATP. The mitochondria eats these electrons. It doesn't eat whey protein, or it doesn't eat vegetables or protein or fats and carbs. It eats electrons. And so the most electrons we get is from the light. The second amount of electrons we get is from the earth. And the third amount of electrons we get is through food. So they all boils down to the electrons. So 2/3 of our nutrition comes from not food, comes from light and grounding, and 1/3 comes from food. So in that understanding, if we can understand the science of it a little bit, it makes those transitions a little bit easier for us day to day. Because to just go to bed earlier because it's good for you, it might not be exciting enough. But if we can see that maybe this is the missing link, and that some of the mental health challenges, the cravings of food, the uncontrollable, urges that we have throughout the day, or addictions that we have, might be coming from a lack of out of balance, out of sync with the up and down with the sun, then I think if we can see the benefit of that, then we might be able to change a lot quicker.
I love that. It's looking at a total wellness solution. It's starting to look at how all these factors influence each other. They all play a role, and I love that awareness that was it 2/3. It was 2/3 is coming from 2/3 of the electrons is coming from other than food, which is profound, because most people will think, great, if I want to fuel my body, if I want to maximize my energy, great, just fuel up, just eat. And I've fasted before as well, and I've found that I'd love to know what your thoughts are on fasting, and maybe looking at, I know that even though the food aspect it's a smaller aspect, but I'd love to know if there are any, if you like, major foods to either avoid. Are there any foods that you recommend doubling down on? I know there's obviously a lot of polarity, and there's a lot of disagreement in the wellness community about, there's different diets and different regimes. So I know there's a lot of people that'll be wanting to know, well, if I do want to be, obviously, get lots of sunlight, get out and ground myself in nature, get fresh air and all that sort of stuff as well. And at the same time, if I want to upgrade my food, because I know there'll be a lot of people they'll just be eating whatever they've been conditioned into eating, and they haven't really thought about it. So without someone going and studying nutrition and finding out, like literally spending thousands and thousands of hours of studying like you've done, can you give us some shortcuts as to really if there's any ultimate universal truths about food and nutrition and supplementation that can help people with practical tools there?
Yeah. Okay. And as you're saying that, I'm like, oh gosh, what am I going to say here? Because there's so many different opinions, right? But really, if we boil it down, take all the societal supermarkets, restaurants, all that kind of stuff away, and go, what would we have eaten on the land in this area? If we were tribal or indigenous to this area, what would we have eaten? And that's the question we got to ask. What did the indigenous people of this land eat in this climate? Because so really the answer is we got to eat temperately. So eat depending on the seasonally, and in different temperatures. So ideally, here in Australia, we would have had a lot of bush food and meat and some fish and things like that. Depending on where we were, we're not necessarily going to be optimally fueled with the food that's at the supermarket or at what's recommended at the health food shop, because what's sold there, if you can't find what's sold there in your environment, in the vicinity of local farming in your state, then we shouldn't be eating it. We're eating out of place from the biology of the planet. Our health and the environment should be one and the same. And so, if we were in Bali right now, we'd be eating different food to what we're eating now. If we were in Europe or the Antarctic, we're going to be eating different foods. So eating the foods that are based on the temperature, when you go to a restaurant, it's air-conned, so it's cold. So then it's easier to eat spaghetti or lasagna or big steaks. But here in Australia, it's 30 degrees outside sometimes. So you walk outside, you're like, oh, I'm so full. You know, the temperature changes and it changes our whole metabolism. It changes our whole, what we're into. So eating in the natural temperature of our environment is key, and only eating food that's in the environment. But there are some fundamentals, you know, healthy fats, healthy carbs, healthy protein. I'm a big fan of bone broth, slow cooked. You know, have a slow cooker on, eat that 3-4 times a week. I just spoke to a friend who's been recovering from Lyme disease, and he's been using frequency therapy to help clean his system out and heal his system, as well as going on a carnivore diet, or the carnivore code that's recommended. It's just eating meat. He just eats meat, no veggies, and it's healed himself. He feels the best he's ever felt. I'm like, wow. You know, my friend Dom in Queensland, he just eats fruit. He's a fruitarian. He says it's the best digestion, he feels great, and he's lean. He feels fantastic. So I think one is the temperately eating based on the climate. Secondly, is also eating based on our heritage. So based on our genetics is what our parents ate, and as well as our mitochondria, the fuel centers of our cells, came from our mum and also came from our grandmum. They're passed on from females in the family. They're not passed on from the males. So someone's calling me. And so, yeah, realizing where our mum was born and where we were born, where our mum was born, and then where our grandmother was born, depending on where they grew up, would change what we ate as well, because our mitochondria adapt to the environment, but it's not going to adapt straight away. So looking at what our grandmother and mother ate can also be an indication. And then the fundamentals when you're eating, you know, be relaxed, chew your food, drink water 20 minutes before and after. Don't drink water or liquids during eating food, and eat in a relaxed state with company. You know, in Europe, they have like an hour lunch break or an hour and a half lunch break, and they go sit in the park and they're eating cheese and bread and all these types of foods, but they're socializing with people and they're relaxed and things like that. So, you know, if I ate cheese and bread here, I'm not going to feel as good as them, I don't think. So it's also important to eat culturally and eat with people. I think that's also a massive component to the eating. You know, if you're just going to have a green smoothie and sit in the corner and hope that you're going to be healthy, you know, good luck.
Yeah, nice one. And I know there's a lot of people out there as well that have heard of the idea of, you know, trusting your own intuition and trusting your body as well. What are your thoughts, or what would you suggest for people as well, for people kind of testing and measuring and coming to their own conclusions? Because I know there is a lot of information out there that can be conflicting for people. So what advice would you have for people regarding if they've been told two different conflicting bits of information? How do they validate what's true for themselves?
Yeah, how they validate what's true to themselves. Well, trying it out and eating and giving it a go, and just then tuning into your body and maybe putting your hands on your digestive system or on your body and on your chest and kind of going, hey body, like, how do I feel right now? Do I feel like my stomach's uncomfortable? Am I getting tired? Do I have, you know, a foggy head? And just checking in with some questions like that. And then also, yeah, just I guess seeing how you feel the next day. You know, you could also go get allergy tests. You know, I've got an allergy test done before, and they prick the skin with certain foods, and I found out I was allergic to prawns, and I had never known that I was allergic to prawns until they did that, and then I was quite amazed. I was like, oh wow, and I stopped eating prawns. Not that I was eating them a lot, but I noticed every time I ate prawns, I'd get really tired and want to have a nap. So, but I just thought that was normal. You know, so maybe getting a blood test, maybe getting some kinesiology or some emotional testing done on certain foods. I went to a practitioner, an NET practitioner, that did some muscle testing with certain vials of food for gluten and sugar and alcohol and you know, different foods, that they'd put the vial on my digestive system and test my energy signature or energy strength for each area with kinesiology. And that was really, really cool. So that's also another way to test it.
Yeah, nice one. Nice one. And Zach, let's dive across to, there's a whole lot of other wellness hacks that are available. Obviously, there's everything from fasting to essential oils to, I know you mentioned there was the frequency technology. I know with the Healy and that sort of stuff you've been getting into. I'd love for you to just share what are the other things that you think are really, really important outside of the dimension of food that people really need to know about.
Yeah, so some of the new health hack toys. Can you hear Brandon? Is he too loud?
There's background noise, but it's okay.
He's
Yeah.
he's excited. He's on calls too. If it gets too loud, just let me know. I can let him know.
All good, man. All good.
Some of my health hacks. Gosh, these glasses. So I usually wear them when I've got fake light or at nighttime when the sun goes down and I'm exposed to some light. I'll usually wear these. I don't wear them driving because it takes the light out, but I wear a daytime pair when I drive, and then these at nighttime. These help me have a really deep sleep and my mind switches off really quick at nighttime. Another option is also the red light panels. So it's a massive panel, you plug it in and it beams out a red light that you can put on your face, on your stomach, on your on your genitals, on any area of your body, and it increases the ATP production, which is the energy of the mitochondria going into our body. So the red light panels are amazing. Oh my gosh, they're awesome. Just for immune system and supporting ourselves during these times, especially indoors, if we can't get access to the sunrise or the sunset and that beautiful natural red light, then making sure that we have a panel. And you can invest. There's some really expensive ones out there, and I guess do a bit of research. I also have what else have I been using? Yeah, the Healy. The Healy has been an incredible hack. This is it here. It's a little portable frequency therapy machine that looks like a toy. But one of my mentors told me about this, and he had an experience where he literally held it in his hand, and it scans his bioresonance, so his organs, meridians, chakras, energy parts of his body, and then gave him a recommendation on a frequency to use. And it recommended the relax one. He was quite highly stressed that day. And so it recommended the frequency for relaxation. And then you put little wristbands on, or you can connect it to your ears, and you connect it like this. And he had a meditation, he relaxed and just felt the most relaxed feeling he'd ever felt. And he had an amazing night's sleep that night. And he said, Zach, I don't know what this is, but check it out. This is really cool. So I've been using this mainly for the anxiety and the mental balance of my ears. After big stressful days, it just keeps me really calm and balanced. I've been using the sticky pads on my TMJ, a bit sore, as well as my shoulder pain, just from posture and stuff like that, as well as focusing on certain meridians like heart meridian or liver meridian and immune system. There's an immune system support as well as some frequencies for a whole bunch of things. So that's been a nice little hack.
Yeah, we'll definitely drop some show notes in here for the guys to be able to check this stuff out, because I know there's a lot of people that be wanting to go and source this stuff. And I know you've got heaps of links and heaps of resources. Yeah, awesome. I'd love to know with the Healy. I know you've noticed obviously a big change in your own health and wellness. Maybe just what have you noticed? Because that's a whole new realm of technology, energy.
I didn't even know this existed. Yeah, and how it really started is when I read a book from one of my health mentors called The Biology of Belief. Oh, sorry, not biology. That's Bruce Lipton. That's a good book. That's a Freudian slip. Maybe you got to read that one. But it was called Body Electric. And it spoke about these salamander lizards and frogs and the difference in their regeneration of their cells. And the salamanders, if you cut their leg off or if their tail gets cut off or broken or whatever, it will grow back. It's amazing. The regeneration process is just like perfect. The frog, if you cut its leg off or it breaks its leg, it doesn't regenerate 100%. So they figured out the electrical charge that was in the salamander's body that created the regeneration process. They pinpointed it, took it out or mimicked the frequency on a battery and put it into the frog and put it to the frog's leg, and the frog's leg grew back.
Completely grew back?
Well, not completely, but like it noticeably grew back. And I was just like, holy moly, like that is a really cool concept. And that's what we do when we connect to the earth. We're connecting to the right electrical charge and also to the light. And yeah, I was like, that makes so much sense. So they also did an experiment where they got a plant, they pulled it over here, they put the right electrical charge to it, and it grew 3 times faster. like a hydroponic, right? But instead of the light, it's an electrical charge. So that's what that works on. It increases the cell voltage in our cells. So for me, I've noticed, running events, going from, presenting and doing some of the work that I do on TV to then doing a broth night, for example, having 120 people rock up, there's a bit of stress and anxiety that comes up for me. So I noticed doing the ear ones, 20 minutes, a bit of a meditation, go outside, connect to the earth and just rest, and just, it takes my meditation to like after 20 minutes, I feel like I've had a nap and I'm just so much more fresh. My face is like more bright and I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And I can power on through the day. So for me, it's like a massive reset, as well as the, like just energetically supported. I went to Japan recently. My little brother got sick and then I got sick and we just had some flu symptoms, and don't worry, we didn't have the virus or anything like that. And he wasn't using the Healy, but I was like, oh, I'm going to use the Healy. So I did the immune system, the bacteria, the cold, the lung one as well. I repaired and got 100% back to normal in 2 or 3 days, but it took him 4 or 5 days to get back. So he's a bit younger than me, so his immune system should be pretty strong too. So I noticed that the Healy helped accelerate my resilience through that time of being out of balance. So that's been really cool. And but some of the stories of people's like insomnia, helping their sleep, saying people that have so much energy after it as well, just keeping really balanced, or some of their workouts, or even for business people who want to concentrate, there's concentration frequencies. It's really cool. It's really cool. Even frequencies for like skin, all the women are noticing they're using less moisturizer and lotion and stuff. I'm like, wow. And it's just working on that cellular voltage within our cells. And if that can stay balanced, then our body can work more effectively. So
yeah, well, that's huge.
Cool.
That's a big one, and that's a new one that a lot of people have never heard of. I've only just heard about it recently, and I'm really intrigued. I'm really keen to test it out and see how it goes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, nice one. Well, Zac, maybe we'll wind it up soon, but I'd love to know as well. Obviously, exercise is something that's really important. People have known for quite some time that exercise is really important. I'd love to know if there's anything specific in terms of parts of our body or ways we can activate our body, or things that you've noticed make a bigger difference than others in terms of the way that we can move our body.
Yeah, so it all comes back to that electrical topic, right? So exercise, when done in a way that's quite gentle, whether it's a bit of yoga or a bit of running or walking, doing the powerlifting, all the CrossFit stuff, which I still love, that's a whole nother category of exercise. But if we look at exercise as actually boosting our energy, it started to as I started to look at exercise as actually creating more energy in my body, I started to shift my understanding of what it was all about. Because our muscles, you got to imagine, all our muscles are like these long fibers, and they're connected to these ligaments and joints, and it's kind of like these electrical wires through our body. And if we don't use those wires, if we don't use it, we lose it, right? So by doing exercise, whether it's just a bit of walking, some push-ups, some pull-ups, just basic stuff, it actually, our muscles are piezoelectric. So the more that we use them, if we use them in a healthy way, we're not going to overdo it, it will actually generate more electricity and more charge and more energy in our body. And that's where you see these old people, oldies, walking along the beach, and they're powering and they're like all this energy. And then you see some oldies who are like got their crutches, and they're, same age, but what's the difference there? Obviously the guy who's powering along the beach and the guy who's on his crutches, or the machine, I don't know what it's called, doesn't have that energy in his body. So what's the difference? He's obviously using what he's got, and obviously there's other components to it too. But as I started to realize that exercise is about creating more energy, I was like, okay, cool. Instead of having a coffee, instead of having an energy drink, instead of having whatever supplements or whatever it is that boost energy, why don't I just do a little bit of exercise and a little bit of breathing and a little bit of stretching and help that charge in my body? And I noticed that I was more supported throughout the day. It became not about losing weight anymore or building muscle, but it was like, how can I sustain my energy into my 80s, 90s, and 100s and beyond? And I used to love CrossFit. I love all the gym stuff. Doing weights is great. But really, if you're pushing yourself at the gym and building heaps of muscle, it's creating all this excess mitochondria and it's needing more energy. Long term, you look at these bodybuilders and their joints and their muscles, and they're not the healthiest looking people. So I like to look at, maybe people that to model might be, say, gymnastic people. Their muscle, they've got such tone, they're not super muscly, but they have this kind of really nice figure, and they don't do lots of weights and stuff like that. Sure, they might do, but it's more of those moving our body how it's supposed to, like, just getting back to nature that way. So that would be one thing. The energy component of exercise, the breathing component, different breathing processes to get us connected to our nervous system in a good balance, get us oxygenated. But also, I've been learning from my friend Johannes, we've got this like mouth mask that actually, I don't know if I've got it here, but actually forces you to breathe through your nose. And you do exercise with one of these masks on, and oh my gosh, it's really hard because you can turn the valve and make it less oxygen or more oxygen. So that's been really interesting to play with that, and doing push-ups, just simple push-ups, but with this mask on, to strengthen my lungs and to strengthen my oxygen capturing ability. I'm sure there's a technical term to that, but also this other pad that I wear around my chest, around my diaphragm and my lungs, that I put on, that's really, really tight. And that's actually allowing me to focus on my breathing and strengthening my muscles that allow me to breathe more effectively as well. I could actually go grab them, they're in the other room, but it's really a nice toy, nice device that's helped me focus more on my breath. And that's super important for exercise.
Yeah, wow. You're really onto the different unique technologies, aren't you? You're like you just go after these things, you like bring it on.
It makes it more fun, it mixes it up, creating more variety. Yeah, it's definitely more enjoyable.
Yeah, awesome. Well, maybe drop in I'd love for you to share with us some of obviously I know you have Facebook groups, I know you've got resources, I know you've got heaps, like you double down on your health and wellness like no one else I've ever met. Have you got any resources? Obviously the stuff that you obviously I know you've got lots of resources. Have you got anything that you might be able to share with the guys where they can kind of go to as a bit of there's a whole world of resources out there. Can you help people sort of narrow in how do they find the good stuff, and you can suggest some of your own good stuff as well?
Yeah. I have a group on Facebook, Wellness Secrets, and that has a pinned post with about 10 different steps and a whole bunch of links on the light and sleep and fasting and water and food and all, EMFs. So that's a really good resource, Wellness Secrets. That's probably the best one so far. Yeah, or my YouTube channel, Raw Cave or Zac Deane on YouTube, and you'll see some interviews and some other recipes. I've got hundreds of recipes up there. Yeah, that'd be a good start.
Yeah, awesome. And I noticed as well, you mentioned the Healy as well. For those of the people that want it, and I'm keen to check out more information on that as well. Have you got any recommendations for how people can find out more about that as well?
Yeah, I guess I can put my link below. There's a couple of webinars that I've shot with, and then also some frequency specialists that are in there as well, talking about frequency-specific microcurrent therapy. And this is all based on German knowledge. This is an incredible, I guess, territory of supporting the body that not many people have looked at. Back in the 1900s, a lot of these chiros and physios started to create these devices, and even Nikola Tesla had an energy device, and there's different light devices and all these different frequency machines out there. But a lot of them were actually needing a practitioner to facilitate them. And so for 13 years, this company used practitioners with these machines that were like 12 to 40,000 euros. You'd go in for a session, hold this machine, and it would scan your body and then deliver the frequency. And this company then developed a portable unit. So the Healy is like the first portable unit on the market that scans the body and delivers the frequency back to the body. That's, getting TGA approved and FDA approved in the US, and a class 2 medical device. So yeah, it's all new. I'll put a couple of links below, and anyone who wants to get in touch can get in touch about that for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Zac. appreciate you for sharing all of your nuggets of wisdom, man. You're an absolute legend, and thank you for dropping in all of that. That was amazing. I
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it.
worries. I
Yeah.
think the last thing just to mention is that, especially in these times right now, is the importance of community, and whether it is here on a Zoom or a video or a podcast, or some people are doing global meditations and processes and events online. It's so important to just recognize the as a reminder to get back in touch with not just nature but ourselves and also community, and go and be creative on how can we create more community right now. If we are in isolation, what can we do? Whether it's having some friends over for some dinner, or having a dinner on a Zoom with someone. I think there's even apps now you can have little parties on with your app. And I think adding that element of community and fun and enjoyment, and whether playing some music or singing, and that festive cultural tribal vibe is important to really hold on to right now in these times. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really good point. And I know you've done plenty of that as well, Jack. I mean, obviously you're a real builder of communities. I know you've done that with your broth nights, and you really bring people together in that way. So yeah, so well done. And you're an absolute legend for what you do in terms of bringing people together. So yeah, thanks again on behalf of everyone.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Thanks again, brother. Appreciate you. Great.